Detachment from overthinking, anxiety, OCD, depression. This is Hyptoria, hypnotize you to manifest.
You are not your mind.
If you were your thoughts, peace would be impossible, because your thoughts never rest. But there is something in you that notices them rise and fade. That silent noticing is who you really are. There is a place in you, untouched by noise, unstirred by panic, unbound by memory, time, or fear. That place is here, now. It's closer than your breathing and more constant than your heartbeat. The still space behind the thinking mind. And yet, we live as if we're the thoughts themselves, racing from judgment to judgment, memory to regret, hope to doubt, anxiety to strategy, spinning into 1,000 mirrors, none of them showing our true face. The mind throws images, interpretations, what-ifs, worst-case scenarios, and we believe them. Not because they're true, but because we've forgotten ourselves. You are not your stream of thought. You are the riverbed beneath it. You are not the clouds that darken and scatter. You are the sky they pass through. This distinction between the thinker and the awareness that notices thinking is not just spiritual poetry. It is the beginning of your freedom. The moment you realize, even dimly, oh, I am watching my thoughts, something powerful happens. You step out of the trance. You return to your throne. There is a trance that most of the world is in right now, and you know it well. You've lived it. Thought addiction. Thought worship. The mistaken belief that if we could just think hard enough, fast enough, often enough, we could fix it all. Control it all. Avoid the crash. Earn the calm. But look deeper. Has overthinking ever healed you? Has it ever loved you the way the breath does, the way silence does? The mind is not your enemy, but it was never meant to be your master. It makes a terrible ruler and a panicked protector. It rehearses pain to try and soften the blow. It plans, not to support peace, but to avoid uncertainty. It clings to outcomes because it doesn't trust life. But beneath that noise is you, not the self the world told you were, not the identity built from roles, trauma, and labels, but awareness itself. Quiet, safe, awake. The anxious mind says, what if this never stops? Awareness replies, this already isn't you. Thoughts will continue. That's their nature. Healing doesn't mean silencing the mind. It means remembering you are not inside the storm. You are the presence watching it roll by. The spiritual mistake, and it is a painful one, is believing you have to clean up the mind before you can feel well. A thought says, I have to fix this. And another jumps in, but what if I can't? And suddenly, you're chasing your own tail through a thought maze, panic building, not from anything real, but from the illusion that you're inside the thoughts. You're not. You are the space they echo in. Close your eyes. What do you notice? Probably noise. Thoughts scrambling for attention, a commentary, maybe an ache in the chest, or a tightness behind your ribcage. That's okay, but now instead of trying to change any of it, just become aware, gently, passively. No fixing, no analysis, just attention. That awareness, the part of you watching, without judgment, is who you are. Not the noise, not the reaction, not the mental diagnosis or the repeating phrase. You're what is watching it all. And here's the miracle. The more you abide in that awareness, even for a second, the less power the mind has. The more you stop chasing it, the more it slows down. Not because you conquered it, but because you left the game. Every obsessive loop, anxiety spiral, and depressive fog is made dense by one thing: identification. This is me. These thoughts mean something about me. This feeling is permanent. But they aren't you, they don't, and it isn't. Spiritual detachment isn't cold. It's what love feels like when it returns to itself. Let this chapter be your permission slip not to escape your thoughts, but to rise above them. To watch them as one watches distant waves, without needing to name, fix, fight, or follow them. Some thoughts will feel urgent, some will try and trick you, but this one you really have to solve. Smile at them. Let them pass. They aren't real. They're just weather in the mind. Oh, you are the atmosphere beyond. You don't need to fix your thinking to find peace. You only need to remember you were never the thinking. A thought can bring fear, but only if it's believed. Awareness sees the fear without collapsing into it. That's your superpower now. Take a breath. Feel it come. Feel it go. Notice how the mind wants to comment. Let it, but don't follow. Just watch. You are already free, because awareness is always free. Relax into that. Return to that.
Remember who you are.
Observe. Don't obsess. There's a subtle turning point on the path of healing. A moment where instead of fighting your thoughts, you simply watch them. No commentary, no panic, no demand for them to disappear. You just watch. And in that instant, without effort, something shifts. A crack of peace opens. A breath, a break in the storm. That's the power of pure observation. Not frozen detachment, but sacred space. Obsessing is exhausting. Let's call it what it is, survival mode in disguise. Obsessive thought loops feel urgent, pressing, and personal, like your safety depends on solving them. But they are smoke without fire. Illusions, dressed as emergencies. They grow because we feed them attention, analyze them to death, try to outthink them into silence. That's the trap. That's obsession. But there is another way. That way is observation. Quiet, awake, fearless witnessing. Not trying to fix a single thought, just letting it pass across the screen of your awareness. Like watching a bird fly by, a truck pass down the road, a leaf swirl in the wind. The moment you stop identifying with the content of the thought and start simply noticing its presence, you are free. The thought is still there, but you are no longer in it. You're around it, above it. It no longer owns you. This is not suppression. This is freedom. Freedom isn't the absence of thought. It is the absence of attachment to thought. You don't win against the obsessive mind by force. Outgrow it. Rise above it. You withdraw your fuel and it fizzles. You might notice something happens when you begin to really observe. The thoughts begin to lose their shape. Their sharpness dulls. They change. A thought that felt terrifying an hour ago now moves through you like background noise. A lazy echo you no longer care to chase. This isn't because the thought has changed. It's because you have. You've returned to your rightful place, as the presence behind the thought, not the prisoner of it. And no, you don't need to observe perfectly. You don't need to meditate for hours or never get caught in loops again. You are human. That means waves will rise, loops will hum. But now, you know the way back home. Relax the fight, feel the breath. Witness the story replaying in the head like a movie you've seen before. And don't react. You are not here to edit the script. You are here to remember. It's just a screen. At first, this will feel odd. The mind will try to pull you back into debate. It will want answers, conclusions, reassurance. It will use fear as bait. Let it. That's just the residue of momentum. Let the mind spin like a child throwing a tantrum. Don't punish it. Don't believe it. Just watch. There is no need to get rid of any thought. That's part of the compulsion. It leads you to believe that peace only arrives once the mind is empty. But your mind doesn't need to be quiet for you to be at peace. You are peace. You are the stillness beneath the noise. Think of it this way. The sky has never once tried to erase a cloud. It simply allows them to pass, and returns, again and again, to its deep blue nature. You are the sky. Thoughts are just weather. Even your scariest, loudest, most compulsive thoughts. Observe them like theater. Nothing in the show can touch you. You are in the audience now. Feet on the ground, hand over your heart. Breathing, watching, unshaken. You're not fighting it anymore because you realize there was never anything to fight. The obsession was a mirage. Repetition does not make a thought true. As you dwell more in the observer's seat, something else opens. Compassion. You begin to notice how tender the mind is beneath all its noise, how hard it's been trying, how fearful it's been, beganging for safety, the only way it knows how, through control, through analysis, through repetition. When you observe without judgment, you meet your mind with love, not punishment. And love heals fast. So let it play. Let it say its piece. You don't owe it a reply. You owe yourself your presence. From the detachment of gentle observation, a new rhythm begins, a wiser one. You no longer dance to the broken beat of obsession. You move in step with the breath, with the now, with the stillness that doesn't shout but always speaks. That's not avoidance. That's awakening. And everything changes from here. Overthinking is a symptom, not your identity. You are not broken. You are not flawed. You are not a disorder wearing skin. Somewhere along the way, you were told or perhaps silently assumed that your mind's noisiness was evidence of something wrong with you, that the anxious spirals, the racing thoughts, the compulsive checking, the mental fog meant you were fundamentally damaged. But what if none of that is true? What if overthinking isn't who you are, but simply an echo of who you've been trying to be? Overthinking is not your identity. It is a signal, a flare in the dark, a gentle, trembling invitation back to the ground beneath your thoughts. The problem isn't that your mind is busy. The suffering begins the moment you believe that the mind's behavior defines you. When we start wearing our mental symptoms like name tags, hi, I'm anxious, I'm OCD, I'm depressed, we collapse the nuance of existence into a box lined with fear, and then we try to heal while trapped inside that box. But your soul doesn't fit in boxes. Not now, not ever. Your true identity cannot be shaken by thought. It's important to realize. Overthinking is a symptom, a smoke trail. It's what happens when energy that longs to flow freely gets stuck in loops. When emotion is avoided, when presence is abandoned, when the inner child has been trained to believe she must figure it all out before she is safe, that's when the mind goes into overdrive. Not because something's wrong with you, but because your system is trying to compensate, protect, control. In this light, overthinking is almost innocent. It's an inner protector doing the only thing it knows: solve, predict, analyze. But you don't have to go to war with this part of you. You don't have to fix the spiraling thoughts. You only have to hear what they are trying to say. I'm scared, but I want to feel safe. I'm uncertain, but I want to feel held. I've lost my center. Will you help me find it again? There is a deep healing that comes when you separate the symptom from your sense of self. A quiet liberation when you say, left double quotation mark, this is simply something I'm experiencing, not what I am. And when you don't cling to your thoughts or resist them, when you loosen your grip, detach from the need to understand what every thought means, something remarkable starts to unfold. You begin to return, back to the inner stillness where no labels exist, back to the presence that existed before the story, before the diagnosis, before the mind was ever taught to fear itself. You were never meant to identify with your mental activity. You were meant to host it, to witness it, to hold it from the space of kindness and grounded awareness. You're not the anxious one, or the overthinker. That's not the truth. That's just a well-worn outfit the ego once draped over your shoulders. But it no longer fits you. It never actually did. There is a deep beauty in realizing that your mental patterns are not personal failures. They are protective illusions. Not enemies, not punishments, not a sign you're getting worse, but echoes of a self that forgot it was already whole. The whirring of the mind isn't your essence. It's feedback. It's spiritual biodata showing you where you're not trusting presence, where you're efforting instead of allowing, where you're pressing for control in a universe built from surrender. So stop trying to fix the thoughts. They are not defects. They are signals. Gently acknowledge them. Nod at them like passing traffic. Let them float without narrating them into your identity. Because the more lightly you hold them, the more they dissolve into vapor. And underneath all of it, the thrum of the mind, the compulsion to analyze, the loops and noise, there is a soft quiet. It's you. Not the story the mind tells, but the one who sees it. Your healing begins the moment you stop confusing the noise for your name. Let it be loud or soft. Let it pass in waves. You don't have to understand every thought. You don't have to chase the roots of every loop. Just remember, the you who sees the thought is not the thought. That's how freedom finds you. Not when the mind is perfectly silent, but when you no longer mistake the storm for the sky. The more you force it, the louder it gets. Have you noticed that the harder you try to stop overthinking, the more chaotic your mind becomes? Like trying to calm a body of water with your hands, your effort only stirs the surface more. This is the trap of mental control. It is not your job to silence your thoughts. In fact, it's the very trying that makes them louder. What if your role isn't to manage every thought, but simply to stop interfering? The mind is like a child in a room. If you constantly scold it or try to make it sit still, it resists, it throws a tantrum. But if you sit quietly and allow it to wind down on its own, something magical happens. The energy shifts, harmony returns from within. This is the power of spiritual surrender, a power not of passivity, but of profound presence. One where you no longer grip reality with white knuckles, but begin to trust the intelligence beneath the surface of your life. Overthinking feeds on friction. It thrives under urgency. The more you feel the need to figure it out, the deeper you embed yourself in the maze. And the deeper you go, the more you forget that the way out was never through control, but through awareness. Through the recognition, I am not lost. I've only been walking in circles in my own mind. Stepping back is the freedom. There is a law few speak of, but you've lived it without knowing. The law of reversed effort. When you strain for sleep, you stay awake. When you chase happiness, it runs. When you force your mind to be quiet, it grows louder in protest. You cannot force ease. You allow it. You fall into it like exhaling after holding your breath far too long. And when you finally let go, not as a tactic, but truly let go, everything softens. And the thoughts, they diminish, not because you conquered them, but because the noise lost its audience. Think of thought like a radio on in the background. You don't silence the radio by shouting at it, or trying to unplug the cords frantically. You simply stop paying attention to it. Your focus, your presence, is what gives thought its power. Redirect that focus, and the energy begins to shift. The station no longer plays to a room of listeners, and so, it fades. What you truly seek isn't a mind with no thoughts. It's a mind that no longer drags you from yourself. You want to feel peace again, to breathe without the weight of the next intrusive idea. But peace doesn't come by earning it. It comes when you awaken to what's already here beneath the noise. This moment has never left you. It was only veiled by your effort to reach what was never missing. Let this be a sacred remembering. You don't fight storms. You wait them out. You don't resist the tides. You respect their rhythm. Why should your inner landscape be different? Thoughts are weather. You are the sky. When you identify with every passing cloud because it looks dark or loud, when you panic at every gust of wind, you forget your vastness. You forget the deep, unbothered peace that has been holding space for every single wave inside you. So now, breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the air move through your chest again. Return to that soft awareness that sees the mind chattering, but doesn't make it wrong. Let the next thought appear, if it wants to. Let it speak, but don't respond. Don't dive in. Just watch, as if it were someone else's dream. And slowly, like echoes in an empty hall, it all begins to quiet. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding it. There's something so holy in that surrender, so soft, yet revolutionizing. It says, I don't need the answers right now. I don't need to control this moment with my opinions about how it should be. I will sit here, in the mystery, in the breath, in the unfolding, and let life hold me for once. This is not weakness. This is not giving up. This is power choosing peace over panic, stillness over strategy, presence over performance. The more you fight your mind, the deeper you fall in. The more you witness it without fear, the more you rise above. Detach gently. Let go kindly. Stop controlling, and the clarity will come, not because you forced it into existence, but because you finally made space for it to return. Inner peace isn't earned, it's allowed.
So much of our exhaustion comes from chasing what we already are.
We've been taught that inner peace is a prize, something to achieve, to work for, to earn through discipline or perfection. If we can just think the right thoughts, meditate long enough, fix our spirals, master every trigger, then maybe, we'll feel okay. This subtle lie is whispered into our ears. Peace is a reward for good behavior. But that's not how truth works. Peace is not a treasure buried at the end of a mental maze. It's what remains when all the grasping stops. It is not earned, it is allowed. When a thought arises, notice how the mind immediately wants to figure it out. It wants to judge, compare, assign meaning, project futures. The temptation is to climb on top of the thought, hoping control will make it disappear. But all this does is reaffirm the illusion that peace is something you get by solving, not by surrendering. Real peace doesn't live in the solving. It lives in the softening. Feel into this. Right this moment, there is a silence underneath the mind's movement, a stillness beneath the anxious narrative. It's not far away, and it's not hiding. It is simply there, patiently waiting. But to experience it, you don't do your way to it. You yield. You turn gently inward, not to think your way out, but to drop underneath the thoughts, like descending into the quiet depth of an ocean, where the storms above no longer touch you. Trying to fix the mind with the mind is like trying to calm a fire by blowing on it. More effort, more wind. But when you allow, when you soften, resistance loses its rhythm. Thoughts may still move, but the hook is gone. The grip loosens. Anxiety doesn't vanish by analysis. It burns out in your presence. Here's what detachment teaches us. You stop earning your way to peace the moment you see that you are peace. It is your spiritual birthright. It's what you were born with before the mind was shaped, before the world taught you to strive for what you already are. Peace was not added to you, it was covered, hidden under layer after layer of battling thoughts, what-ifs, and mental judgment. But sit with this now. You don't need to change your thoughts to feel peace. You need only to stop obeying them. The thought says you aren't safe. You breathe and listen to your body instead. The thought says you must fix this feeling. You soften and allow the wave to rise and fall. The thought says it will never end. You remember that your awareness has been here long before that sentence formed and will remain long after it dissolves. This is not apathy. This is clarity. You are not giving up. You are giving in to something deeper, truer, more stable than the mind's performance. You are letting go of the idea that the storm must stop before you can rest. You are choosing to rest now. Do not wait for the mind to be quiet to feel whole. Let yourself feel whole, and the mind will follow. Can you imagine standing in the middle of your overthinking mind and not needing it to stop? Can you feel how powerful that is? To rest as consciousness itself, watching thoughts move, without taking them personally, urgently, or seriously. Every time you allow a thought without reaction, you dissolve centuries of momentum. You stop passing it along through your nervous system. You reset something ancient. You remember that silence is not something to seek. It is what you return to when you stop chasing noise. This right here, right now, can be your sanctuary. Not because the mind is stopped, but because you no longer need it to. And in this allowance, something sacred opens. Not from restraint, but from revelation. You see that peace isn't conditional, it's constant. Whether the voices in your head say 5 things or 50 things, you do not need to believe them to know who you are beneath them. Peace is not a transaction, it is essence. You don't bargain for it, you dissolve into it. Let yourself be still, not because you earned it, but because it was always yours. Let yourself be free, not someday, but now. Let the thoughts pass like clouds. There is a moment, quiet and unannounced, when you realize you don't have to engage every thought that arises. That moment might be the beginning of real freedom. You see, the mind will endlessly produce noise. That is its nature. It's not a mistake, and you are not broken because of it. Thought is motion, like wind brushing across water. But just because a breeze picks up, doesn't mean you have to set sail. You can sit on the shore and watch. You can stay anchored in presence, while the waves do what waves do, coming, going, returning. Thoughts only become prisons when they are clung to, when you believe them, when you argue with them, when you shape your identity around their content. But here's the deeper truth. Thoughts without your attention have no life of their own. They are as harmless and as fleeting as clouds drifting through the expanse of the sky. This chapter is your return to the sky. The sky never fights the clouds. It never tries to shape them, escape them, or make them disappear on command. It just allows. And because it allows, the clouds move effortlessly through. This is the sacred gift of conscious detachment, not the rigid control of the weather, but the calm knowing that weather is never permanent. Let your thoughts pass like clouds. You don't have to figure them out. You don't have to fix them, or fear them, or package them into psychological meaning every time they show up. The need to analyze every thought is itself part of the storm. The silence you long for doesn't come from solving, but from softening. There's a place within you, deeper than the thoughts, older than the emotions, that is already at peace. And that place is reached not by thinking differently, but by no longer needing to buy every thought a ticket to stay. A cloud doesn't stain the sky it passes through. Likewise, your thoughts, No matter how anxious, obsessive, or dark they seem, do not define you. They touch your awareness briefly, then disappear as quietly as they came, but only if you have the courage to let them go. Letting go doesn't always feel like a spiritual lightning strike. Sometimes, it's as simple as noticing the thought and whispering inwardly, "That's just a cloud." Not a command, not a prophecy, not an emergency. Just a cloud. You pause, you breathe. You do not follow it. You don't make it an enemy to fix or a god to follow. You see it, love it, and leave it. And then, something miraculous begins to happen. The more you stop reacting, the more the mind releases its grip over you. Not because you fought it, but because you stopped energizing it. Attention, after all, is what fuels thought. Remove the fuel, and even the loudest voices soften into background noise until they're gone. This is the quiet revolution. You are no longer a victim of every mental movement. You are the one who sees. You are the open sky, infinite and untouched. Do not be disheartened when storms pass through. Even the fiercest thoughts are still only temporary weather. What matters is not what passes through your consciousness, but whether you choose to cling or allow. And today, you are learning to allow. If a fearful thought rises, let it rise. Do not push against it. Do not resist it like a wave crashing against a wall. Breathe into it, watch it, give it space. That space is awareness, and awareness dissolves thought, like sunlight burns away the fog, effortlessly. Let this become your new practice of power, allowing awareness to dissolve the unnecessary. You are no longer obsessed with fixing your mental weather report. You are learning the language of surrender. Trust returns here, ease lives here. And real healing begins not when the mind is silenced, but when you stop giving every storm meaning. Presence doesn't battle thought. It embraces it with such openness that the thought no longer has to fight for attention. In this energy of allowance, each thought has no reason to stay. Nothing sticks to a mind that doesn't cling. So the next time a thought arises, even a terrifying, irrational, or critical one, pause. Feel your breath, feel your body. Don't react. Don't run toward it or away from it. Let it be. Watch it pass. It will. Because that's what clouds do. Lesson 7. Detachment is a divine power. Detachment isn't a form of weakness. It's not numbness, apathy, or shutting yourself down. Detachment is the return to your sacred center, your divine power to choose what moves you and what you let go. It is not the absence of care. It is the presence of clarity. True detachment allows you to live with an open heart and a quiet mind. Not because life is perfect, but because your peace no longer negotiates with outcomes. For so long you've been taught to believe that love means clinging, that control makes you safe, that overthinking is a sign of diligence. But what if none of that was true? What if your incessant grasping, to fix, to manage, to understand, to predict, was simply blocking the very peace you're seeking? Detachment is not rejection. It's not about resisting life. It's the sacred art of releasing what was never yours to hold in the first place. Look at nature. The trees do not cling to falling leaves. The rivers do not argue with rocks in their path. Nature flows not through effort, but through surrender. You too are nature. You were born whole. Your soul remembers this, but your mind, frantic with stories and conditions, has forgotten. Detachment is the remembering, the return, the homecoming to the part of you that never needed to overthink to be loved, or obsess to feel in control. Let it enter your awareness the understanding that not every thought deserves your attention. Not every moment needs to be decoded. You don't have to carry what burdens you. You can be deeply compassionate and still let go. You can feel your emotions fully without wrapping your identity around them. You can be devoted to your dreams without being ruled by their timing. That is sacred detachment. That is divine power. When you are attached, anxiety arises. Why? Because attachment demands certainty. It clings to outcomes, to timelines, to specific expressions of safety. And when the external world cannot guarantee those things, the nervous system panics, the mind spirals, the emotions flare. But when you detach, you don't become complacent, you become magnetic. Suddenly, you're not pushing, not begging, not needing. You're trusting. You're allowing. And in that space of inner openness, your energy shifts, and life has room to meet you with grace. Detachment doesn't mean giving up the desire. It means softening around it, loving it into the space of already done. The moment you drop the need for something to happen, that moment you allow divine timing to breathe. You release outcomes from the chokehold of your nervous system. You reclaim your power as a relaxed, radiant creator, not a frantic fixer. Your soul knows everything you desire is possible. Detachment is the agreement to no longer hustle for what is already yours. When you detach, even your thoughts begin to lose their sharpness. The ones that once screamed for attention, "What if this happens? What if I don't get that?" now pass like whispers in a wide cathedral of stillness. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to analyze them. You can just smile, recognize them as old reflexes, and let them keep floating. This is not passive. It's profoundly active. Choosing detachment in a storm of mental noise is warrior work, sacred work. To stand at the center of your swirling thoughts and feel their pull but not go with them. To feel the burn of craving, the ache of uncertainty, the lure of fear, and still decide, I let it go, not because I don't care, but because I trust something deeper than thought. You weren't born to grip everything tightly. You were born to feel, to flow, to free. Your highest self is not anxious, it's aware. It's not obsessed, it's observant. And every time you practice detachment, you return to that self. You become the sky again. And the clouds, the fear, the overthinking, the pressure, they keep moving. They always do. So let it be easy now. Even if it's unfamiliar, let it be simple. You don't have to understand everything all at once. Just begin to notice what you've been clinging to and ask yourself, is this mine to carry? And if the answer is no, or not anymore, let it drop. Let it fall like a leaf returning to the earth. Your wholeness does not depend on how tightly you hold on, but on how deeply you trust and release. Detachment is sacred. Detachment is power. Detachment is not the end of your manifestation, it is the doorway. Because when your energy says, I no longer need this to make me whole, the universe replies, you're ready to receive. Healing happens in stillness. There is a place inside you that never overthinks. It doesn't spiral, it doesn't analyze, it doesn't fear what comes next. It simply is. Quiet, whole, unshaken. And yet, most of us spend our days entirely unaware of it, choosing instead to swim in the storm of thoughts, trying to think our way out of thinking. But healing, true, embodied healing, doesn't arrive through mental effort. It descends in stillness. Stillness is alive. It's not emptiness in a cold or distant sense. It is rich, full, saturated with presence. It is the field where all healing seeds grow. The anxious mind searches for answers, strategies, solutions, while the awakened heart understands that the solution is not something to be found, but something to be felt. Felt in the quiet, felt in the surrender, felt in the sacred silence beneath all mental noise. You have been taught to chase healing like it's something you need to earn, something far outside you, something that comes later, after the checklist is completed, after you've done enough inner work to deserve peace. But healing doesn't dwell in the mind's calendar. It's not hiding in a future where all your thoughts behave. Healing has never been far, only obscured by your endless attempts to manage what you were never meant to carry alone. The overactive mind is always seeking, grasping, calculating. It wonders, am I doing enough? Am I thinking the right thought? Will this one finally be the one that saves me? But it's never the thought that saves. It's the moment you stop needing a thought to save you. The moment you stop arguing with reality and allow stillness to cradle you. That holy pause, that breath between mental streams, that is where the healing begins. Stillness is not the absence of thought. It's the presence of something deeper, a quality of awareness untouched by the mind's narration. When you sit with yourself, without the need to fix, correct, or solve, when you don't flinch from discomfort, but soften into it, you return to your original home, a place that doesn't speak in logic, but in vibration, in intuition, in peace, that has no cause or condition. That peace isn't earned, it's remembered. It's always been yours. This chapter is not a call to empty your mind, or to silence every thought, or to meditate like a monk on a mountain. Instead, it's a remembering that stillness is not an achievement, it's your nature. The sky never tries to become still. It simply stops stirring when the wind blows less. You too, return to still waters not by controlling the current, but by resting from the need to swim. Healing arises naturally when you no longer block it with mental resistance. Your nervous system listens more to your presence than to your thoughts. Feel that.
right now. How your body sighs when you stop trying. How it begins to unwind the moment you sit without judgment. This is no small thing. This is the intelligence of life undoing lifetimes of fight or flight, with nothing but breath and presence. And the beautiful secret? You don't have to understand how that healing works. Stillness knows how. Healing happens when the mind doesn't interrupt it. There will be moments when your thoughts protest. They will insist that problems must be solved immediately, that discomfort is dangerous, that control is safety. But don't believe that voice today. Let it speak while you rest anyway. Don't argue. Don't obey. Just listen like you'd listen to a movie playing in another room. There and distant. Let it be and return to being. Whether you are healing from anxiety, OCD, depression, or any cycle of overthinking, the medicine is not locked in thought. It waits in the crack between mental effort, that invisible space between a thought let go and the next one arriving. In that space, there is no past or future, no fixing or failing, just presence. And in that presence, you are whole. You always were.
Not.
So, take one moment now, not to analyze, not to count how many thoughts you had today or how many more you'll have tomorrow, but to rest. Really rest. This breath, this now, nothing needs to be added or taken away. Just this. Slowly, softly, the storm begins to dissolve, not because you fought it, but because you stopped giving it your attention. That's the gift of stillness. It doesn't push the storm out. It simply remembers that it was never you. And if your mind comes rushing back in 5 minutes later, let it. That too can pass through silence. Even the returning is part of the process. You don't have to cling to stillness either. You just touch it when you can. Rest in it when it calls. Trust it when it feels empty. It is working on levels your mind cannot fathom. Healing is happening. Not because you're doing more, but because you're finally doing less. Let that be enough. Let stillness do what the mind never could. You don't need to understand everything. The mind will tell you that you must figure it all out, that relief is only possible once the answers are found, that you must analyze everything, thought by thought, feeling by feeling, cause by, until there's nothing left to investigate. But here's a divine reversal. Healing isn't found in understanding. It's found in surrender. Cause. The anxious mind is always seeking certainty. Certainty feels like safety. Clarity feels like control. And so it tries, relentlessly, to untangle every emotion, dissect every behavior, replay every moment until some magical insight finally appears. But insight doesn't come by force. The truth doesn't reveal itself under pressure. In fact, many of the deepest shifts happen when you finally stop needing to make sense of it all. There is a sacred intelligence beneath your mental grasping that knows how to heal you. Call it your higher self, divine flow, innate wisdom. It doesn't matter what you name it. What matters is that it works without your interference. Have you noticed how your wounds sometimes soften on the days you stop trying so hard? How moments of peace arrive, not in your conclusions, but in your surrender to the unknown. It's not your job to decode the mystery of every thought. It's not your task to trace back the origin of every feeling. You are allowed to let things pass through you without having to explain them. Understanding can be helpful, but needing to understand is a trap dressed as a solution. There's a quiet part of you, below the analysis, beyond the spirals, that already feels safe. It's not afraid of confusion. It's not panicking about what this means, or how to fix it. That part of you is called presence. It's where the storm stops spinning, not because the sky clears all at once, but because you're no longer chasing clouds across the horizon. Let yourself not know. Let yourself cry without decoding the cause. Let the ache be there without painting it a story. Can you feel the relief in that? You don't have to pick apart every layer of your anxiety or depression to be free from it. Sometimes, knowing less allows you to trust more. Overthinking loves to disguise itself as insight. It will say, if you can just piece this together, it'll all make sense. But what if that moment never comes? What if peace is not on the other side of explanation, but on the other side of release? Notice when your mind spirals toward a problem it can't solve. That's your cue to step back. Not because you're avoiding it, but because you've realized something deeper. The presence inside you doesn't need the story to resolve in order to feel peace now.
And perhaps most powerfully of all, peace doesn't care if you ever understand. Peace is not a prize for perfect awareness. It is not the achievement of enlightenment trivia. It is everything that holds you when your thoughts are too loud. It is what remains when you allow the miracle of not knowing to feel safe. This is radical trust. Trusting that life carries you even when your mind cannot. Trusting that healing happens even when you can't trace its path. Trusting that clarity arrives not from pressure, but from permission to soften. Let go of the belief that you must be your own analyst to heal. You are not a puzzle to decode. You are a soul expanding. You don't need to map every turn of your journey. You only need to be right here, loose, soft, and undeniably alive. Right here, in your breath. Right here in your body. Right here in the fierce kindness of presence that doesn't need to know everything to love you through anything. Let your mind rest. Nothing important will be lost. The truth that matters is already resting in your stillness, gently waiting to be felt, not figured out. The body knows how to relax. Let it. Your mind will tell you 10,000 stories before your body lets out a single sigh. But that sigh, soft, surrendering, real, is everything. It's easy to forget that you inhabit a body. When you're living up in the clouds of thinking, caught in the looping weather of overanalysis, your body can become a background hum, rigid, tight, forgotten. Yet your body is not just a vessel. It is the sacred bridge between presence and peace. Quietly, patiently, it's always telling you the truth. If you listen, it knows exactly how to return to harmony. You don't have to figure out how to relax. You were born knowing. Long before you learned how to speak, or analyze, or control a moment, your body responded to life with innate wisdom, stretching when it needed space, shaking when energy needed release, crying when emotion needed to move. There was no strategy to it, just flow. But then the mind got louder, and slowly, tension became normalized. The shoulders forgot how to drop, the belly forgot how to soften, the breath moved higher into the chest instead of deep into the belly. It wasn't your fault. You were simply taught that thinking was superior to feeling, that the mind was the master and the body the servant. But now, you are remembering the deeper truth. Your body is your re-entry point to peace, and you can reclaim it without a word, without a thought, just by noticing it now. Have you ever truly watched your breath when it sighs without prompting? That sweet release, that effortless wave collapsing? That's not control. That's not force. That is life unresisting itself. That's your nervous system exhaling safety. And it can only happen when you stop telling it what should be happening and simply allow what is. Sit back, feel into yourself. Not to change anything, not to correct or perfect the posture, or count your inhale, or manipulate the moment, but just to remember that you're here. That this skin, this breath, these sensations are not obstacles. They are invitations. Your body holds emotional blueprints. Every craving to control arises first as a sensation. Every anxious loop begins as a flutter in the gut or a tightening in the chest. When you drop into the body, you are not avoiding thought, you are listening beneath it. You're touching the field where thought is born, not from strategy, but from felt reality. And in that contact, healing happens naturally. Stress isn't just mental, it's muscular. It lives in the jaw that clenches, the neck that tenses, the spine that stiffens. Thoughts may be loud, but energy is real. It moves through tissue and tendons and fascia, which is why stillness is not idle. It's active in the subtlest way. When you stop resisting the now, you allow safety to return to your cells. The body begins to trust again, and trust is the most soothing medicine known to humankind. You don't need to push relaxation. Forcing the body to calm down is just more stress with a spiritual label. You don't need to muscle your way into peace. It does not come through effort. It comes when you respect the pace of breath, the rhythm of now, the honesty of your body's signals. Often when the mind is spinning, it's because you've lost contact with this sacred intelligence below the shoulders. So come back down. Even now, feel your feet. Do they press into the floor? Can you drop attention there for just 5 seconds? Not to escape thinking, but to send a signal of safety to your whole system. Left double quotation mark. Left double quotation mark. Anxiety lives in the future, but the body only lives here. Thought spirals in linear time, but your breath is always in the eternal present. And when you attend to it, not as a method, but as a miracle. The whole idea of fixing yourself begins to dissolve. Instead, you listen. And in listening, you soften. And in softening, you heal, not because you tried to, but because you allowed it. The body is not your enemy. Even your tension is not against you. It's remembering what safety feels like. That's all. So rather than ask, how do I stop feeling this way? Try asking, can I allow this sensation to speak? And then just rest. Not as a technique, but as a return. Back to the rhythm you were born from. The deep knowing that your breath had before you ever thought a thought. The truth is, your body is always guiding you home. And there is nothing more spiritual, more noble, or more powerful than letting it. Return to the present moment. There is only one place peace has ever lived, and that is here. Now. The mind will offer you 1,000 destinations, most of them shaped like some better version of you, some imagined relief 6 steps from now. Once I'm healed, once I understand, once I get control. But presence doesn't wait for you to finish the journey. Presence ends it, right now. It isn't something you achieve, it's something you remember. The present moment is not an idea, not a technique. It's the home you've never actually left, only forgotten. Overthinking, anxiety, and obsessive patterns all share the same root structure. They orbit a future that doesn't exist, or a past that never stops replaying. These mental loops feed on your absence from now. They lure you into time, into stories, projections, fears, regrets, expectations. But time is a construct. The body lives now. Spirit lives now. Only the mind wanders. And when you come back, when you gently exhale and notice your breath, you feel it. That soft, quiet hum beneath the noise. That's you. Not your fears, not your thoughts, just this living presence, timeless, still, alive. Many have been trained to think that the present moment must be dramatic to be spiritual. But presence is not loud, it's not efforted. It's not found in fireworks, it breathes in the silence between, the pulse in your wrist, the way the light moves in the room when it's quiet enough to see it. It's the sacred mundane, and it's always available. Right here, in the breath you're taking, in the way your feet feel touching the ground, in the tingling sensation of aliveness brushing the inside of your skin, like warm static. This truth is simple, but it is not always easy. Returning to the present moment is a discipline of the heart, not the head. The mind wants to understand it, categorize it, use it to get somewhere, but the present moment can't be used. It just is. Try to trap it, and you lose it. Allow it, and you dissolve into it. When you live in your head, you try to think your way out of suffering. But suffering doesn't live in the present moment. It lives in imagined futures and memorized pasts. You're afraid of what might happen. You're ashamed of what already did. You're trying to outthink pain with more thought. But here, in this breath, there are no problems. Just sensations. Just being. This isn't spiritual bypassing. It's spiritual anchoring. It's not denying the existence of trauma, fears, or hardships. It's remembering that those things don't define you. They are experiences, not your existence itself. And the moment you re-enter presence, their story weakens. Try it now. Don't try to silence your mind. Don't try to fix anything. Just feel what's already here. Let your awareness scan softly through your body, not judging or analyzing, just noticing. The rhythm of your inhale, the subtle tension in your shoulders, the cool air on your skin. Can you feel your aliveness again? Because presence is not separate from you. It is you. It's what remains when thought pauses, or when you stop mistaking your thoughts for truth. The present moment doesn't need you to be perfect. It doesn't ask you to be healed first. It welcomes you, again and again, just as you are. And when you allow yourself to plant your attention in the now, fully, honestly, you water the roots of your reality. All manifestations begin here, not in the anxious anticipation of the mind, but in the fertile stillness of now. When you are here, you are magnetic. You are whole. There is nothing to become, just something sacred to remember. And so, you return, not as a task, but as a homecoming. You come back, breath by breath, moment by moment, not to escape thought, but to transcend it. Let the mind chatter, let it swirl, but you, stay rooted. Feel your body, sense the stillness that lives beneath all motion. This stillness has no name, no shape, but it holds you effortlessly, the way the ocean holds the waves. You don't have to try to be present. You are already here. Only the story suggests otherwise.
And when the story ends, what you are remains.
Still free. Now,
From mind spiral to soul silence. There comes a point in your inner journey where trying to make sense of the noise no longer makes sense. You notice how exhausting it is, trying to think your way out of overthinking. You chase quiet with desperation, and, in doing so, create even more internal tension. The spiral tightens. You try to fix every thought, correct every loop, understand the root of every fear. Yet, with each attempt, your peace slips further away, like chasing a reflection on water. But what if the end of the spiral isn't down but still? Not an abyss, but a return. A soft, silent homecoming to the part of you that has never been touched by any of this noise. That place has always been there, beneath the mental spin, beneath all the what-ifs and what-I-shoulds, beneath fear's grip, there it rests, the soul's silence. It doesn't speak in thoughts, it doesn't argue, or fear, or grasp. It only waits. You don't need to figure out how to get there. In fact, you can't. You don't access this silence from within the spiral. You arrive the moment you stop resisting the stillness. The spiral only spins as long as your attention feeds it. But silence? Silence doesn't ask for anything. It simply receives you when you're ready to stop fighting. You've probably been told that healing is hard, and that enlightenment demands effort. That you must strategize your thoughts, monitor your mindset, cleanse your subconscious, and audit every emotion. But none of this is needed for you to experience soul silence. These are mind movements, well-intended, but still movements. And all movements are noise. Silence is already here, already whole, already now. It's not that the mind is the enemy, it's just not the master. It tries so hard to help you, doesn't it? It believes that if it can just pre-think every outcome, prepare for every danger, make sense of every feeling, then you'll finally be safe. But over time, that protection becomes a prison. Floors made of hypervigilance, walls of constant analysis, locks crafted from what-ifs. No peace in sight, only planning. No trust, just tension, dressed up as responsibility. But the soul doesn't spiral. The soul doesn't strategize. There is no rush in your essence, no pressure in your presence. The soul simply is. And, when you remember that, the mind may still continue. It may chatter, or doubt, or loop. That's fine. But now you're no longer caught within it. You're resting behind it. You become the sky again. The spiral always feels like an emergency. That's its nature. The velocity of the thoughts makes them feel urgent. And so you give them attention, solving them like math equations you never volunteered to solve. But attention is fuel. Withdrawal attention, and the urgency fades. You do this not by resisting thoughts, but by turning softly toward awareness itself, like a sunflower leans toward the sun. Not effort, just orientation. The soul never yells. It never interrupts you. It waits, and glows. Waits and accepts. And when you drop back into it, when you exhale into presence, instead of tensing into thinking, everything quiets. Not because the mind is now silent, but because you're no longer identifying with the one making all the noise. You've stepped behind the curtain and found the source of light. You're in the observer now. You're in the gentle rhythm of being. There's a moment where you realize, nothing has changed outside, but everything feels different inside. No monstrous epiphany, no massive external shift, just a breath, and then the world expands. The overthinking still tries to hook your focus now and then, but you know the way home. And that knowing, that's liberation. You don't spiral because you are weak. You spiral because you forgot you had a choice. But now you remember. You remember what silence feels like. Not the silence of near quiet, but the soul's silence. The kind where truth lives. The kind where healing breathes. The kind of silence that doesn't demand stillness from the world, but resurrects stillness within you. You are not the spiral. You are the space it moves through. You are not the thoughts. You are their witness. And as you awaken more and more to this truth, you no longer try to escape the spiral, because you are no longer inside it. You return, again and again. You return to the silence that never left. That was only waiting. That is you.